And now I'm going to turn to Reena Lazar, who is here with us as one of the founders and the executive director of Piece It Together Society. And Piece It Together is a really fascinating program. She's going to show a video clip, so I won't say too much about your program. But what is so fascinating is the use of media to bring people together who come from very different worlds and experiences, and in the process of creation do discover so many things about what it means to create peace. So over to you, Reena. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I feel bad everyone else talked about their degrees, so I'll say mine. No, it's not in my bio, so you don't have to worry, Joanna. So I have a background actually in architecture. I have a Bachelor of Architecture from McGill University and a Master's of International Affairs from Columbia University. Kind of a strange background to be doing what I'm doing, but here I am. Should we show the clip first? I'm just wondering. Sure, I'll set it up. So as Joanna mentioned, what we do is we unite youth from opposing sides of a conflict to come together and connect with each other deeply, and then once they've connected, create short films about the conflicts so that they can use those films as peace-building tools in their region, and we can use them around the world as well. And the purpose of the films is to empower or inspire other people to engage in peace building. We've been, right now, our third dialogue and filmmaking program is happening. It's happening right now. Today is day 5 of a 4-week program. And so there are 10 Palestinian university students and 10 Israeli university students and 10 Canadian university students together right now in a beautiful lodge up in Pemberton. And I came in to speak here tonight, but also to collect Khalil Bader from the airport, he's the Palestinian coordinator of our program, representing the organization PRIME, which is the Peace Research Institute of the Middle East. And he's just really got off the plane from Jerusalem, so wake up. And so he's here, and he hasn't been up to Pemberton yet, but he has been working with the Palestinian youth in the region to prepare them for he selected the youth and then preparing them for this really very, very brave journey that they're going through right now. So what you're about to see is a very short clip. This is a world premiere, by the way. It's behind the scenes of their first day together, so 4 days ago. And it will be going up on our website shortly, but it's not up there yet, so this really is a sneak preview. And the idea is that we are documenting the whole process with professional filmmakers, and we'll be updating the world through our website, which is not up there. It's pieceittogether.com. So I'd love to show you this clip first, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about the program.
Day or two, we're going to be really focusing on getting to know each other better, building trust and community among the group, establishing norms and agreements with each other of how we want to be together, and learning skills about how to engage in dialogue productively with each other. One of the first things we want to do is just to kind of experiment with trust a little bit.
Growing up in Canada, it's like coming to terms with one's faith if one wants to even follow it. It was a very sort of challenging and consuming process. Understanding that things aren't black and white. They're never black and white. They're really messy.
Who I really am is like a human being, not Jewish, not Israeli.
I must go forward to achieve my goals and my dreams.
You know, people like to talk, and I like to talk as well, but I can also just sit back and listen.
Wherever I go, I can't go without taking account with me, and because it reminds me of the memories that I live.
In every place that I come into, I took a stone, and because it's telling me the story of the place. And it's the first things that I feel connected, more than people.
My sweet home is Palestine. That place I can't enter to it, but I feel always that it's mine and nobody can take it from me.
I carry humor with me, and I think it's an amazing tool, and I will never let anyone tell me that jokes don't have a place in the world, because I think they always do.
Yesterday, when we were jumping back, I noticed that I wasn't checking if the group, like, I just jumped back. So I really believe that peace could be, and we all can be and live in a free and peaceful world.
Thanks. So that's day one. I wish I could fast forward you guys to what's actually happening right now, and I will try to give you a couple of little snapshots of stories. Just to put this all into context, that was somebody's suggestion. So I grew up in Montreal, born and raised in Montreal. I'm Jewish, and I went to a Jewish elementary and high school, which was, it was a Zionist school, and that was what it meant to me is a school where we learned to have an attachment and love for the land of Israel. And so I have I grew up with a very strong Jewish identity and a fairly strong attachment to the land. And actually, I always thought the word diaspora just meant Jewish people who lived outside of Israel. I had no idea that it was for other people in the world. And so just to show you a little bit how sheltered we were. It wasn't until I was an adult, like probably in my 30s actually, that I met a Palestinian. And I had been to Israel a couple of times as a child and then as a teenager. And again, and also while there, never really connected to or met any Palestinians. And then I guess the first time I ever had some deep connections with Palestinians was when it was in 1999, when I did a 2-week delegation to Israel and Palestine, and just spent two weeks listening to people speak about the conflict from every possible perspective, both Jews and Palestinians, Israelis and Palestinians. And it was perhaps the two of the most transformative weeks of my life, because I kept hearing stories that I just was, first of all, never exposed to. And actually, it's funny because one of the Israelis in this current program we have mentioned something that made me think of back to that journey. He was listening to some Palestinians, and he said his first reaction was to not believe them. They must be exaggerating. Oh, I remember what it was. We have all the youth came with some videos of their home, and one of the Palestinians lives in Bethlehem, and right in front of his front porch, he's like 10 meters from the wall. Like that's his view from his front porch, or even closer than that. And so this Israeli said, his first reaction was, oh, that must be some sort of trick or joke or propaganda. But because he met this person and he knows this person, he knew that it was true. And that's pretty much the way I felt when I heard stories from Palestinians. The first few times I heard Palestinians talking about checkpoints, I thought they must be exaggerating. But then, of course, as you hear more and you get to really connect with someone on a heartfelt level, of course it's true. And so that was the main motivation for starting this program. And it didn't start as a filmmaking program, but it became that way. And I actually connected with another local person who's living in the diaspora. He's a Palestinian from Jordan. His name is Adri Hamail, and he and I rebranded the organization to become a filmmaking and dialogue program. I'm going to tell you a couple of short stories before I tell you why we're doing filmmaking with this. The first is, these are fresh stories that just happened like yesterday. We do an exercise that's where we purposefully provoke the students to get triggered on certain hot topics. And then we have a small group discussion. So we have a bunch of small group discussions where they discuss it. And in one of these small groups, the Israeli here was talking with Israeli guy and a Palestinian woman. We're talking to each other in a group of 6. And the Israeli just kept hearing from the Palestinian something. He said, I don't want to hear what all Palestinians think. I can do that at home. And this is where where Canada has a role. I don't want to hear what all Palestinians think. I can do that back home. And I came here to Canada because I want to connect with you. I want to know what you think. I want to connect heart to heart. I want to know what you think. But we can't do that back home. They don't have the opportunity to do that. He said over there, as an Israeli, he has a choice. He can avoid the conflict somehow, or he can take a side, like a right wing or a left wing or somewhere in between. And he said, but that's really static. And here, there's movement, and here it's complex. And he's He wants that complexity, and of course it's unfolding, as we speak. And then another small group dialogue after the same exercise was, again, there was an Israeli and a Palestinian, 2 guys this time, and the Israeli is a fairly passionate, outspoken, let's just leave it at that guy, and after this exercise he was feeling quite depressed, I guess, and he felt, or hopeless, and he basically said that. He's like, forget it, I have no hope, I give up, there's no way if this is gonna happen, we're not gonna be able to ever have peace, like if you can say that, or if these people can say the other thing. And his Palestinian counterpart just looked at him and said, no, we can achieve peace, but you and I have to work together. You and I have to do this together. We can't, and that's why we're here. Again, I was really touched by that one because, and maybe, when there's more dialogue, Khalil could elaborate on this, but Israelis and Palestinians working together for peace is not very popular right now on either side. It's just not. And the young men and women who've come to this program and other kinds of programs that are around the world are quite brave, especially those who are as motivated as the ones who are in Pemberton right now. They really want to make a difference. So filmmaking, we do that because we want to take it beyond dialogue. And we also want to find different ways for people to have dialogue that are beyond facilitated dialogue. So one of the things we feel is that what's missing from this conflict is our stories, but a particular kind of stories, because there are quite a few stories out there about one side's narrative and the other side's narrative, and they're very, very important. The problem is that like if it's the Israeli narrative, it's only Israelis watching it, and if it's the Palestinian narrative, it's only the Palestinians watching it for the most part. I mean, and so what we're doing with films is we get in small groups, one Israeli, one Palestinian, one Canadian, to make a film together. So what happens is their stories are up there on the screen, either intertwined or side by side. And it's just a little bit more palatable for the general public to want to see it. And they do see it, and our reactions are incredibly positive. The first year we did the films, the program, there were 7 short films made by Israelis and Palestinians and Canadians. And then shortly after the program, I was talking at a peace education conference in Turkey. I was focused on Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And I was showing the films in a small group. And this woman who had come in late, she was actually an Israeli peace education, Israeli teacher who works with media and filmmaking in high schools. And she was, after the words, she said, who did this? How did you do that? She was all like, sort of very like kind of surprised and almost astounded, because this had been kind of her thesis, that she wanted to do something like this but never thought it could be possible. And I think that it's unfortunate that it's not possible to do over there. But this is where, here in the diaspora, here in Canada in particular, that's where we are, we have a strong role to play. I'll say more about that in a second, but so the films is because to take us beyond dialogue, and also these youth, they want to know that the dialogue is just the first step, but that they can create something together. Ideally, they're going to create peace together. But they come here and they can create a film together that they can be proud of. It's quite a big deal to make a good film. And they do this, and it gives them this sense of agency that, wow, if we could do that together, what else can we do next? So I just want to tell you, since usually when I speak, I show some of the films, which obviously there's not time to do tonight, but there are 15 films now on our website, pieceittogether.com. And please go and take a look. And there's going to be 10 more very soon. And they will be screened, world premiere screening will happen on August 2nd at the Vogue Theater. And you can find out more on our website. And I hope that some of you will come and see those. There's one more thing I want to say back here about filmmaking, just the role of the Canadians, I guess, in this program. The 10 Canadians are a diverse group, as you got a glimpse of, and they come to this program and they're kind of silent for the first few days, and they're listening intensely, and then this morning when I left, they had a very special exercise where they decided to give the Canadians a role, and they divided the Canadian delegation in half. So 5 Canadians went with all the Israelis and 5 Canadians went with all the Palestinians. And they were talking about a very a topic, which happened to be checkpoints. And it was their job to unpack it, to find out, to really be the mediators and to help the Israelis or the Palestinian group find out what are their interests and differentiate between positions and interests and needs. And it was really great to watch them do that. They didn't know they were going to do that. It was great. I could probably close here. I guess what I've pretty much been focusing on is what are the possibilities and yeah, really, what are the possibilities and what's our role? And I'd say if there's one role we have in the diaspora, it's to advocate for peace education. There are programs that bring Israelis and Palestinians together in North America. There's at least a handful or maybe even 10, and there's probably a bunch in Europe. But they still, from the last time I read about this, I think I read a statistic that it's still less than 1% of the population are touched by of Israelis and Palestinians actually have any meaningful kind of dialogue with each other. We can't do much with that kind of statistic. There's not going to be any change. And so it's really, I think our role is to advocate, to invest more in these kind of programs so that we get to the tipping point, because otherwise nothing's going to change. And yeah, I mean, really, it comes down to you can't make peace with your enemy without your enemy. That's really what it comes down to. That's it.
Thank you so much, Reena. And the website is on the program. So if people want to go, there are some amazing, amazing films from past years. And I know you've got a screening coming up in August, don't you?
Yeah, and just also what we're doing new this year is we're engaging the public while the program's happening. So you're able to follow through by reading blogs and looking at photographs and watching films that are made about behind the scenes. So, and then we're going to ask the public questions. The youth might pitch their film ideas on the website so that you can actually weigh in what you think, that kind of thing.